Hey, what's going on? Welcome back to another Coffee Q&A, your daily dose of coffee Q&A here on the OnoCoffee channel. I'm Jay, your host, and we do questions and answers about coffee pretty much most every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. So welcome back to the show. If you're just watching for the very first time, good to see you. And if you're returning, as always, pleasure to see you again. Now, if you, how was your weekend? I'm trying to think what happened this weekend. I can't remember, but suddenly I did. So today's show, we're going to be talking about black bottoms. So here in Baltimore, we have something called the black bottom cupcake, and it's something that I grew up eating here in Baltimore. And it's if you grew up in this region, it's quite ubiquitous, and just pretty much part of the normal baked good fabrics. I understand that outside of here, it's not really well known, or maybe it's getting more known now. I think after the advent of the internet and vloggers creating recipes online about different baked goods, I think the awareness of black bottom cupcakes has spread. But I'm not sure if that really is the case. Kent, good morning to you. Or good afternoon to you up there. Maku, how are you? Mom, what's going on, man? And Peter, how's things down under? Hola as well. And so black bottom cupcakes are these basically chocolate cupcakes that have a little bit of cheese, cream cheese placed on top of it. So it's a chocolate cupcake with chocolate chips and a little bit of this dollop of cream cheese. And it's really, really a wonderful, moist, delicious, very chocolatey kind of thing. Now, this is actually something that my mom made for us since I was a child. Actually, this one is made by my mom. I actually don't make these myself. I could, but I just never do because, my mom has the touch, and she baked some the other day or yesterday, and I was like, oh, let me grab one of those for the live stream and share with you today. So it's a fairly simple recipe: cocoa powder, chocolate chips, butter, sugar. Is it butter? No, I don't know. Maybe there's not butter, but flour, sugar. In this particular case, she likes to use Nestle Toll House chips. So it really has the taste of Americana. Like if you want to have a taste of like America, this is pretty much a great example of that. Right. And so, yeah, there it is. We're going to try it out today. We're going to have some coffee and talk about coffee, right? So how was your weekend? Hope it was good. I ended up going to a Super Bowl watch party last night. Those of you who may not be here in the United States, we have this thing called American football, where it's kind of a derivative of rugby, where we have something called touchdowns, but we don't actually unlike rugby, where the players are required to cross the goal line, the try line, the touch line, place the ball and physically hold it for a moment on the ground, touch the ball to the ground, touch it down to the ground and hold it in order to get your points. Here in the United States, we just have to cross the physical plane of existence of the goal line. And so once that happens, as long as the ball is carried over the goal line, touchdown, right? So a little bit different, but kind of same. Different than the football that everybody else knows around the world. But interesting enough, there's a lot of fandom outside of the United States, which I kind of found out quite a long time ago when I was in Mexico one year when the Baltimore Ravens were campaigning to make it to the Super Bowl. I was in Mexico City during the playoffs, with a big playoff game between the Baltimore Ravens and the Denver Broncos. And my friend was having a party that day, and she was like, hey, my brother's having a birthday party. Why don't you come to the house and hang out with us? And I was like, okay, cool. And I figured, well, I'll go there, maybe watch the game on like some small TV in the back. And I arrive at this house, this big Mexican family, only to find out that they are rabid Denver Broncos fans. They were like super Broncos fans. Like everybody is in Broncos gear. And I was like, oh, I am in football. It's like, I had no idea. I thought this was the football, not football, right? So I was like, okay, good. So we had a good time. I was like one of the only Ravens fans, and we trounced the Denver Broncos that day. So that was very interesting to see. And I've watched the games in other places where I've been, like Germany and in Africa, and it's kind of fun to see. Though I watched the Super Bowl in the Philippines when we went that same year, and we're at a bar at 6:30 in the morning. going crazy, drinking. Nothing like drinking 6:30 in the morning. Nothing like that. All right, so the black bottom, that's what we have. So we're going to try this. It's going to be nice and dark and chocolatey. And then we're going to have some coffee to go with it. I thought that we'd get this Brazil that I roasted on the Royal number 5, the newer roaster, the one that has the perforated drum. So I've been curious. I haven't tried it since the last time we used it, and I've been curious to see, like, Matt says that he can taste some of this, maybe a little bit of smokiness from it, which kind of maybe makes some sense because, it's a perforated drum. So if you saw that the one live stream that we're roasting, you can kind of, as you're looking into the portal of the roaster and you look through the drum, you can actually see the flame beneath it because the slots on the drum, on the barrel of the drum, are slots, so you can see through them and you can see. So it's a different style of roasting that I'm actually used to. So I'm always curious to try and see how is this coffee turning out, right? And it's been another week, so time to taste. So let's do that. We're gonna do that. How was your weekend? Did you guys do anything interesting? Anything fun? I can't remember what I did Saturday anymore. Oh, actually, I didn't do anything Saturday because we were supposed to have snow on Saturday. So this is kind of the big rip-off, right? So, like, I'm supposed to have snow on Saturday, and I was supposed to go to a meeting in Northern Virginia, and then go out to meet some friends for a lunch. Well, they say snow is going to happen starting at 9 a.m. And then the next, I'm like, oh, my meeting's at 9 a.m. And then the night before, it's like, okay, maybe snow at 2 p.m. I was like, okay, well, that's not good because I don't want to battle through snow coming back from Northern Virginia. It's kind of far. And, I just don't want to battle through that, right? Like, maybe when I was younger, I was all like, okay, I can do whatever I want. But now that I'm older, I'm like, So, but we had no snow the whole day, so I pushed everything off for no snow, and I could have totally gone. I was like, such a disappointment. Such a disappointment. Okay, let's turn we're going to turn that on. Zoom in a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. So as always, we're going to use our typical ratio of 24 grams of coffee to make 12 ounces of brewed coffee. And I must say the nice thing that I am enjoying this brew assist feature from the Thelotally Pro. Is that right? Thelotally Pro? Yeah, Thelotally Pro. And I'm used to just calling things the scale rather than having to identify, but you get the point. So the nice thing about it is that, I don't have to necessarily, I can put a little bit more, a little bit less if I want to. It'll still tell me how much water to pour, which I think is fairly convenient, right? That's very convenient, a nice feature. I'm kind of, when we first got this a few months ago, I was really kind of like, my whole attitude was like, oh, come on. Why? What is this going to do for us? And I have to say, I'm enjoying it. I'm not enjoying how short the cable is, the power plug on this. If it's just another 3-4 inches, be perfect so that I could give you a better view here. So we're just going to do a nice pour over. That's real simple, nothing too crazy today. Turn the grinder on. So we had 24.1, right? So we're going to see how much of that retention thing there is. So, okay. Let's get our little brewing kettle here. We're going to use the Hario V60 because, classic. It's just classic. That's what we're doing today. We're doing classic. Classic Baltimore desserts, classic brewing methods, right? On a classic roaster, a 1920s Royal number 5. So with Brazil coffee, so classic coffee growing region. So, and one thing, here's something I'm curious to know. Like, I was looking at every week I'm buying coffee, right? Every week I'm buying coffee, pulling it from the warehouse, and every week now I'm seeing the prices steadily increasing. So for you guys at home, how has the rising price of green coffee worldwide affected your purchasing? You know, have you started to see a lot of price increases in your part of the world with the people you buy coffee from? I'm curious to know. Okay, let's see here. Now we've got those. Okay, we're going to zero this in, right? Zero that. Okay. I'm going to add our coffee to the mix. Nice. Okay, so 24.0 gram. Oh, we're missing a gram. Should I go hunting for that? Is that important? Do you think that? I don't know where it is. It's not showing up inside. It's not in here. I just clicked out the what made this? Is that a gram? I don't think so. Anyway, so somewhere along the way we've lost a gram, 0.1 gram, tenth of a gram. Is that good or bad? I don't know. Could be good, could be bad. You just make sure that the water is nice and reheated for our brewing session here. Now, one of the things about this is, Jeremiah. Good morning, Jeremiah. How are you? Jeremiah says, not yet seen much increase in pricing. Okay. Paige is with us. Good morning to you, Paige. Just had my something between a flat white. It's all right. Remember the one adage that I was taught by a woodworking guy, a furniture maker. He was like, everybody makes mistakes. Pros, enthusiasts alike make mistakes. The amateur puts them out. You know how it is, right? You're doing something and you want it to be perfect, and then because you're giving it to someone, you're like, oh, this is it's not so good. This is the problem. Well, don't tell them the problem. No one's gonna know. They're not gonna know. They'll probably be too polite to tell you if they notice. Okay, so the water's nice and boiling. Get our little kettle here. And now the kettle is still cold, right? So we're just going to transfer it over. And even though it's straight off the boil, I'm relying upon the cool of the kettle to dive the temperature some. So I'm really not. I never really worry too much about the temperature. Like, I know some people like to use specialized equipment to thermometer it or to hold it at a certain temperature, but I kind of like go with a little more feeling, right? So just kind of like through time. And so I know that this is about room temperature, which is probably right now about 68 degrees. And it's dove the temperature down from 212 after just pouring it, probably down to 205 now. And then by the time we start to brew and all of this cooler apparatus and coffee, it's going to dive the temperature even more. And like the time that we did our testing on it, when we did the measurements, it was at under 190 degrees in the slurry. So I think that perhaps we're worried too much about the brew temperature overall. So let's pour. Oh, darn it. Oh, darn. Well, who knows? We're just going to go with it now. I'm not even going to. We're just going to go. All of this button pressing, I still don't get it. I'm still not getting it. I still long for the days of just a simple scale and my timer. So we have, I think I have now 700 grams. How did that jump to that? Oh, who cares? I'm just going to go. We're going to do it by feel. We're going to go all the way. Paige says, I don't have a cup that is flat white size, so as it ends up being closer to a latte, all good. Was still delicious. Excellent. That's all that matters, as long as it's tasty. But really, I don't think there's, I don't know, Paige, how hard you think about the flat white, right? But really, flat white is just baby latte, right? So pretty much once you get, to my mind, once you get past the ratios of 222 for the cappuccino, you're pretty much in latte territory. I mean, we're just calling it different things. Like flat white is really just kind of like, a thin, is like a 6 to 8 ounce latte. That's really it. So greater proportion of milk to everything else. And the flat whites, are typically like very thin on the foam. Lattes can be a little bit more foam. Peter probably hates this, but to me, it's just Australian affectations that I'm just kind of like. Like people that come in, they're like, I want a flat white. You're going to get it. Really, they come in, they can I have a flat white? You're going to have a cappuccino. We're going to make you a cappuccino. You're not going to know the difference. You're going to love it. And, unless you're some super Australian guy that's like, hey, mate, it's got a little bit too much foam. Okay, fine. If you come in with an accent, then we'll like, okay, then we'll pay it. Then we won't make you a cappuccino. We'll make you a real like thin latte. And then the flat black, the tall black, whatever they call it. It's just an Americano. Come on now. The Italians called it Americano because we were the first ones to have it, right? So these Australians, I don't know what it's all about. Peter says, if you make mistakes, just rename the drink. Yeah, totally. Just maybe. Just perfectly. That's what we do with the latte art, right? We just gotta like look at it and it is the galaxy. Naomi says, good morning. How good morning to you, Naomi. What coffee are we brewing today? We are brewing the Brazil that we tried last week to see how it has progressed. That was roasted on the Royal number 5. So trying to see if is there really going to be any kind of milky character. So let's look here. We got I see what's going on. So this thing thinks that now we're at coffee, that the coffee weight is actually the brew weight. So we're going to go onward. Paige says, I don't want all of the foam but still want to taste more of the espresso. I hear you. I totally hear you. I mean, and totally if you're making like something a 6 to 8 size drink, you're going to have definitely a better ratio of coffee to milk. I like it. I just have an uncomfortable friendship with Australians. That's really what it is. That's all it is. That's all it is. Peter says it's the off-white flat white. I like it. I like that. 340. It said 349 before, right? So we're gonna 351. It's gonna be under extracted now. Terrible. What are we gonna do now? I don't know. Anton says, hello, I want a pretzel. Oh, excellent. So tell me, where do you get your pretzel? Okay, so as a German, are you particularly particular about your pretzel? And where do you get them from? Like, and what kind of, like when it's part of your culture, like what do you buy? Like, are you looking at the pumpkin seed one? You're like, pumpkin seed, or the one with the butter, sliced with butter. Like I'm just like an American charlatan, so I'm just like, butter. We'll have butter with everything. Cheese sounds good. Naomi says that one of these days I will be able to master that. Yeah, that's probably a long way off at the way we're going. I can never remember to hit the right sequence of buttons. It's very like well, you'd think with AI they would just have it all just kind of happen. Then it would probably cost $550 instead of $265. Is it $265 or is it $3? The ode is $300. Is that right? I can't remember. Nobody says I've seen 6 ounce latte cups, 12 ounce latte cups. Very confused. I don't know if like. So really, you can think about it. Like if you really want it, I'm kind of dogmatic about cappuccino, right? Like the cappuccino has to be 6 ounces. It has to have 222, essentially, more or less. I guess if you're saying essentially more or less, it's not so dogmatic, but you get the idea, right? So you can take a 6 ounce cup and make a latte with it, right? The real difference between a latte and cappuccino is balance, right? The cappuccino is supposed to be a balance between the coffee, the milk, and the foam, whereas the latte is a preponderance of milk, right? The milk quantity is greater than the coffee and foam. That's it. That's really, to me, that's really the difference between lattes and cappuccinos. So you can make it even 4 ounces as long, well, I guess at 4 ounces. Well, yeah, you could just put an ounce of coffee in the 4 ounce cup, and then you could do 3 ounces of lightly frothed milk, and you got a latte. So it's really just, it's not necessarily how big it is. Like you could theoretically go to a 32-ounce cappuccino if you had so much espresso, so much milk, and so much foam. Although if you had that much foam in a 32-ounce big gulp, like, I think people would be like, I'm getting ripped off here. A page says a long black, thank you, I think. See, I can never remember these things. Anton says, isn't cap traditionally a single shot and a flat white double shot? I get you. I don't know. I think we'll have to ask Peter. Peter's our resident Australian. I don't know. I refuse to listen to Australians in coffee. I just refuse now. I don't know. When the Australian coffee professionals start to speak, I'm just no. Anton says, have you seen Omniel's scoring video? He did a thing. I saw it, like I was just before I went to go watch the Super Bowl last night. I saw it on one of the feeds. I was like, oh, I need to go watch it. I need to go to watch it. I haven't. My apologies, Omniel. I haven't seen it yet. I was watching the Philadelphia Eagles spank the Kansas City Chiefs. It was like shockingly. They were shockingly bad. I was like, wow, this is shocking. Like shocking. I haven't looked at the news either because typically the Eagles the Philly fans are typically animals, right? They're just animals. They're feral up in Philadelphia. That's why you don't want to mess with Philadelphia. You just go, you get your cheesecake. You don't muck around because those people are crazy, right? Like the Philadelphia fans are the kind of people that they lose the game, they burn the city because they're upset. They win the game, they still burn the city because they're celebrating. So either way, the city's burning, but I haven't really looked at the news to see, did Philly burn last night? I don't know if they put that on the international news, but yeah, that's kind of how I see it. But they spanked, like they soared like an eagle, and they spanked the Chiefs. Like, oh, it was like, oh man, so terrible, so bad. Jeremiah asks, after a roast, what is your typical resting time before brewing your first cup? So, Jeremiah, if you're interested in how this, something that's correlated, if you rewind back to maybe May, the live streams in May, we actually did a series, a whole week. Was it May? Or maybe it was longer. Maybe it was over a year ago. Anyway, we did a series of videos where we roasted. Yeah, it was over a year ago because we were in the old roasting space. So roasted coffee on a Monday. We did the first stream that week on Monday. We roasted the coffee and then tasted it immediately after roasting. Now, the SOP in coffee is basically to roast your coffee. Let's say we roasted today, and now it's 10 a.m. We're roasting this coffee. Here's our coffee. Now, tomorrow morning, we're going to cup that coffee to see how our production roast went. And it's more of a quality control cupping than too heavily a critical cupping. Like, there's different ways of doing cuppings, right? Or different purposes. Some of them, you're doing cuppings because they're much more critical because you're looking to see, you're considering purchasing the coffee. So you're going to roast you're going to get green samples, you're going to roast them, you're going to taste them, and you're going to evaluate them to see, okay, do I want to buy this coffee? How much am I willing to pay for this coffee? Things like that. And then, but most times, you're doing production roasting. So you just want to make sure that your coffee that you roasted is within your parameters, right? Is it in the performance that you set for that coffee? Now, most people, most companies, most everyone in the business does it the day after. So I thought it'd be an interesting series of live streams where we would roast the coffee, taste it, and then taste it on every subsequent day for at least a week to see how the CO2 production occludes the flavor. And if you're not too familiar, the byproduct of roasting coffee is that the coffee bean starts to emanate CO2. But that CO2 emanation occludes your ability to taste the coffee. So it blocks the coffee's flavor. So you don't get the full taste of the flavor of the coffee for at least a week. It usually takes about 5 to 7 days for that degassing to happen. That's why if you try to brew truly freshly brewed coffee, the bloom is really strong. And as you get further and further away from the roasting, the bloom gets a little bit less because a lot of the CO2 has been dissipated from the coffee. And then eventually there is no more bloom because all of the CO2 has been dissipated. Most people will consider that stale coffee and want to throw it out. I encourage you not to do that. Try it, see if you still enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, give it to your friends, or give it to your friends you don't really like. You know, they'll think you're doing them a great service. You're like, oh, hey, I have this beautiful coffee. I'd like you to have it. Oh, thank you. You're so kind to me. It's like, and you're just thinking in the back of your mind, I don't really like you, but I thought the commerce of friendship would continue, right? It's like the time when my friends many, many years ago in the 90s, when there was a cigar boom, my friends were like, hey, man, bring us some Cuban cigars. And these are guys that didn't smoke cigars. They were just doing it because it was the fad, and they would never finish the cigar. They would only do a few puffs and put it down. And if you gave them a $20 cigar, you'd be like, I gave you a $20 cigar. You totally hosed it. So, I got an empty box of Cubans, and I got a bundle of cigars for $20. I made sure they fit. They looked nice. I put them in there. I brought it to the party. I was like, did you bring Cubans? Yeah, man. Here's some Cubans. Help yourself. They loved it. They had a great time. They were like, these cigars are awesome. And then they put them down half smoked. So it'd been like, whereas I would have normally been like, oh my gosh, you totally have gypped me. They had a great time. I had a great time. I preserved the commerce of relationships, and we were all on our way. So it's been a great time. So something to think about to do with your old coffee. Oh yes, so after that, so if you look at that video, those videos, we taste the coffee, and one of the most interesting things that I learned in that video that really has challenged my perception of what we do is we roasted the coffee and tasted it immediately out of the roaster, and it tasted really good. It tasted significantly worse the next day. In the time frame when we would normally have done QC cupping on it, it was significantly worse. Now, which is like, man, maybe we're mucking things up. Maybe we should wait a week to do our QC, but waiting a week. So you just kind of have to in that case, now it's more like we're still doing the day after cupping, but we realize that it's not necessarily reflective of the actual flavor that it's going to be, but we're really just looking for aberrations, issues and problems in the coffee itself, because then you can still pull it if you need to, or find a way to rectify it. But if it's already been distributed, it becomes a much more difficult scenario. Peter says, doesn't what you call it, it's all the same to me. Coffee with milk is just white coffee. Yes, I agree with you on that. That's totally the way it is. Anton says, I'm not particular about them. Most bakeries do them the same, but I get them traditional. No pumpkin seeds, butter, whatever. I just get them dry with salt and eat them like that. Oh, nice. All right. Respect to that. Okay, so let's have a look at our coffee now. We're going to take that out. We let it mature a little bit. We don't need our bear timer right now. So now this is a Brazilian coffee. And the Selmo Natural Plus that we roasted about a week and a half ago, or 2 weeks ago, maybe, on the Royal No. 5, a perforated drum gas-fired roaster. If you look at my Instagram feed, you'll see me light this thing on fire. The roaster, not the coffee. Well, the coffee that was in the roaster was what caught on fire, but not this coffee. This coffee did not catch on fire. And it looks nice, looks pretty good. Let's have this is one of those times where you're like, I've been talking about are we getting roasty, smoky notes because of the open flame, which doesn't necessarily make sense to me because, the open flame is just an open flame. It doesn't really give you smoke. When I'm smoking barbecue, we're using wood to generate the smoke. And it's just, so I don't, so am I really, I want to say that I have a sensation of smokiness, but I don't know if that's now truly something that I'm sensing, or maybe I'm imprinting that because of what I'm thinking, right? Which is this is one of the reasons why when we talk about if you're cupping in a group and you're trying to do a critical tasting of the coffee, we encourage silence because we don't want to imprint flavors or descriptives in other people's minds when it may not necessarily be there. It does smell nice. It does have a little bit more of a, there is more of a, okay, so I wouldn't say it's smoky. There's definitely a little more of a depth. So there's a little more depth of something, maybe like not a charring, but more, maybe a smokiness. Maybe. So it tastes nice though, nice body, chocolate notes, but the chocolate notes are more toned, more like cocoa and graham cracker kind of flavors. Paige says, have you visited my favorite roaster in Wilmington, North Carolina, called Vigilant Hope, this weekend, and their flat was, okay, it's this. I'm looking at so the screen is it's a 15-inch MacBook Pro, right? And it's actually further than my arm length, right? Like maybe almost at least arm length. Oh, yeah, arm length and a half at least from my face. And that icon is this, right? It is this, right? Okay. Because what I saw was this, like, I was like, is that really like, but it says brought some beans home as well. So I figured that if it was like this, it wouldn't have been brought home. If it was like this, it would have been brought home. So never mind. Anton says, I just saw Crew has a Valentine's sale going on. For anyone wondering, the special coffee glasses like Amiel uses for the filter. Let me have a look at that. Crew. Crew glassware. Oh, let's look here. Crew 15% off. All right. Oh, these glasses. Okay. Oh. All right, there it is. 15% off for 15% off for Valentine's Day. Imagine glass. Have you guys used these? I've seen them. I've never used them. I have to say that I do think that the shape of a glass can really enhance the experience of tasting just about most any liquid, depending on it. I have noticed with things like the Riedel glasses with wines, there is an impact on the way you see. We've even tasted it here, depending like this Riedel thin glass versus, let's say, this kind of rocks glass, or even this more of a glass mug. Like there is a flavor experience differentiation depending on the vessel you're using. It's really quite interesting. Paige says that I've looked at their glasses. Thanks for the heads up. Yeah, thank you, Anton. Paige says it was a great game and a great halftime show. I have to be honest. I think I'm kind of old. Although my cousin was texting us on our family chat, and he's like, Kendrick Lamar, it was so amazing, and blah blah blah. And I was like, dude, I must be old because I don't know any of those songs. I know nothing of Kendrick Lamar. I was like, what is? I guess. But for me, if we had a heavy duty country star doing the thing, I'd be like, I don't know any of this music. But the thing is, I've always thought I was pretty into hip hop, but I really didn't know any of Kendrick's songs. I was like, whoa, maybe I need to brush up on my Kendrick Lamar. All I know is Lamar and Chloe. That's really all that I know. I'm really kind of out of touch. I'm out of touch. That's not a touch. That's the problem. Peter says, I know nothing. I hate Australia. The Asian dev's asking if I order beans from Ono, what's the reco for Spro? Get the espresso and the house blend. Get those for now. We're going to have more stuff coming up. I have to redesign the website. I mean, I have to update the website, but get the espresso, get the house blend. I think that's a great place to start. It's really meant to be very accessible, and the espresso really is kind of my vision of coffee for the world, of espresso for the world, right? You'll get to see my soul in that, like into the mind, peer into the mind of the madness. Jeremiah says, "Your friend, you don't really, yeah, you have friends that you don't really like that much. Like you tolerate them, you hang out with them. You're like, yeah, cool, dude, cool." Maybe you disagree with them with certain things. You just want a little jab at them. They're still your friends. It's like you can't hate everyone. Peter says, my grandfather had a collection of cigars and pipes. Oh, but you have not partaken in those, I imagine. I do not recommend it. Cigars are more expensive than drugs. Gene Hackman told that to Denzel Washington in Crimson Tide at the very beginning of the movie. 100% true. I went for a week in Denver for a wedding where I was like, oh, this is before legalization here in Maryland. And I was like, oh, let me go visit the dispensary. And I bought like 2 joints for $20. The same week I went out to a bunch of cigar shops to go check them out and have a cigar and enjoy myself. Like every day, once a day, I'd have a cigar. I spent $60 on cigars when at night I could just toke up a little bit and I only spent $20. I was like, oh, this is very expensive. Drugs are much cheaper than cigars. So don't do cigars. Well, don't do drugs, don't do any of that stuff. Well, cigars is okay. It's fine. It's fine. But then again, you're in Australia. Don't do cigars because unless they give it to you, like your grandfather, if he gave you his stuff, then you should try it because Australia is prohibitively expensive. Like the people that I know in Australia that are cigar smokers, they tell me their stories about what you guys pay for taxes. And it's like, oh my gosh, that is craziness. They're even like, if you come to Australia, you have to be very careful because if you don't declare the correct amount that you brought, you will be paying heavy taxes. I was like, whoa, all right, gotta remember that. Gotta remember not to go to Australia. Marcus says, Paige, Vigilant, hope got it. Add it to the list. Oh, got it. Okay. Thanks for the rec. Have you been to Bespoke Coffee there in Wilmington? Anton says, isn't there a short time window after roasting when the degassing hasn't started, and that's where it still tastes good still? After that, you have to wait. Yes, and that's what we were kind of testing to see that week, was to see, okay, we roast the coffee. So after it cooled, we took the coffee, brewed it. And then that's unusual, right? Typical, well, at least for us, it's unusual. For you, I think, Peter, you're roasting to order, right? So that's kind of normal for you. But in typical coffee production, you roast, like say today, and you'll taste that coffee tomorrow for your quality control cupping to see how it tastes, right? To make sure that it's correct. And then you ship it out to your clients, and you tell them, or you hold, like sometimes, a lot of times we'll hold the coffee for like a week before we take it to the client, so that, sometimes clients, they don't have the time, they may not have the bandwidth to worry about, okay, I got to take this coffee, sequester it, and let it bring, age up to the right point before we serve it. They're like, oh my gosh, we need to use it now, right? So we try to hold, especially for our wholesale content, we try to hold coffees roasted at least a week in advance so that by the time it gets to them, it's pretty much ready to go. Now, and what's the window? I think it's only maybe 4 to 6 hours after roasting that you can really drink the coffee. So like what we found out was that by the time we roasted the coffee, drank it, fantastic. The next day, compared to that first beverage, terrible. Like just occluded and like all mucked up. I was like, oh, this is really bad. This is really not what we're looking for. And you can actually see, if you look back at those live streams, you can see the actual a live reaction as the coffee. And like it really challenged the way that I thought about how we're doing our QC work for evaluating. Are we getting the full experience? Now, I even ran this by a bunch of friends in the industry and said, hey, would you try this and see if you get similar results? And I think they all got similar results, but no one's going to change. It's like you've got this big train that's moving at a pace, and you want to like change rails. No, that's not going to happen. Nobody's going to do that. It's not significant enough. There are ways to overcome. There are ways to compensate for that, so we don't worry too much about it. Oh, Jeremiah, thank you very much. That's very kind, man. Thank you very much for the super chat. I appreciate that. Paige says, Marco, we went to Bespoke before heading to Vigilant. Love them too, and they're wearing black and white beans. And they're using black and white beans now. Oh, awesome. Where is this? Everything keeps on. I do appreciate that, Jeremiah. I'm trying to see there's a little tab under my window here that says it tells me let's celebrate. And I was like, oh yes, but I wasn't sure if it was a button that would give confetti or something. But confetti, thank you. I appreciate that. Anton says, I actually have 2 espresso glasses from Groove. Ironically, I noticed that they are great for filter. So that's what I mostly use them for. So better for filter than for espresso. Gotcha. Okay. Like filter tends to taste really nice from these, but from the espresso glasses. I noticed I like drinking filter from really small glasses. Oh, it's interesting. I like that idea. And they really should be glass because filter coffee in a glass just looks way too nice. Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's very pretty to see it in a glass. I really have been enjoying drinking the coffees in these Riedel glasses. These are actually designed for their water. These are water glasses. They're about $10 a piece, I think. So not cheap, but not extravagantly expensive. And they are very thin, though. Like you can always see how thin they are, and so there's always a chance of you breaking them. Like this one actually has a crack in it. There's a little crack right here. You can see that. And I had 2 I was using for a while. The other one had no cracks in it. And then one day, the problem is that you have to be really careful how you handle it, because one day I was just moving it and I crashed into something and I destroyed it. And I was like, oh man. And I was like, I hope that's the one that has the crack in it. Of course it wasn't. M0 says, nice, oops, nice quote and reference. What am I doing? I keep on clicking on these things. I don't know what I'm doing here. Power Plant says, Kendrick has been around for over 20. I know. I figured that when he was playing, I'd be like, okay, I know of Kendrick Lamar. I just don't think I know his music. And I was thinking, okay, he's going to play something that I'll know. And I've watched the entire show, and I was like, I know nothing of this guy's work. I was like, whoa. Some of it sounded like that mumble rap, that more modern mumble rap. And I was like, I don't really know what's going on. I don't know what's going on here. But I mean, you could totally take, what's his name? You could take any of those. But conversely, you could take a country artist, and I would never know his music too. Like, oh, I don't. Guy's been around for 30 years. I have no idea what he's singing. So, I can't. Dr. Dre, when he did the Super Bowl, totally knew all that, those tracks. I was totally down with that, totally down. Paige says, I also went to Hidden Grounds, was hoping for better coffee, but the aesthetic of the shop and their outdoor space there was the real draw. Oh, nice. Oh, you really hit up a bunch of places over the weekend. Paige says, the visuals and symbology of Kendrick's show were amazing. One of the speaking of symbolism, I thought everything about the Super Bowl, around the Super Bowl, like I get what you're saying about all of the visual. That was very interesting, very cool. But I thought that commercials were very reflective of our nation in this moment. A lot about women, a lot about things that people would describe as DEI. And I thought as DEI in America is under attack, I thought that was really interesting that there's a push against that, against the attack. M0 says, can't stay too long today. Have a great week. Have a great week to you, my friend. Good to see you. Power Plant says, myself, I love a freshly roasted coffee. The bloom you get is awesome. No doubt, no doubt, no doubt. And Peter says, I got some Mexican decaf. Oh, how do you think about that? Is it the water processed? Marcus says, I also tried Drift Coffee Kit Shop and Kitchen Autumn Hall and enjoyed it. I don't remember the details though. That's all right. As long as you enjoyed it, that's really the only thing that matters. The Power Plant, I love a loaded glass. I love a leaded glass. That's also loaded, I'm sure. Definitely bad for you, but the weight is all. Yeah, but it's only a little bit of lead. It's fine. It's fine. Dev says that I love my crew, excite, and inspire. Oh, okay. I'll look at that up more. All right, let's have a little bit of a look at that taste. So back to this Black Bottom. Like I said, the Black Bottom is really popular here in Baltimore. It's a chocolate cupcake with chocolate chips and a little bit of cream cheese on top. It's really ubiquitous, really famous here, really popular. I believe it has some origins from the Amish country in Pennsylvania, so it's just really regional for this area. Like I've seen it there, and there's different, and with any product, there's always different textures and different ways of doing it. I like it to be moist, but a little bit firm, which this should be, and a nice dollop of the cream cheese just kind of offsets everything really nicely. These started probably the first. I think one of the first things that I found that was where a recipe for the Black Bottom was published is in 1961. So it's been, which means that if it's published in 1961, then it's been around since at least the 50s. 50s, maybe the 40s. So it's been around a long time. And finally, someone codified it. Now, like I said, there's a lot of people that talk about it on their blogs. So there's a lot of information out there. If you want to try it, give it a try. I don't know what recipe my mom uses, but it's the recipe she's used since I was in elementary school, and I still love it. So let's have a look here at it. One of the best ways I always like to do is I like to break it in half, so you can see here the structure. There's the dollop of the cream cheese, and then the nice moist crumb. There's a couple like chocolate chips embedded in here. So that chocolate chip there, maybe it melted on top there. So this bite has a little bit of everything. So let's try that. I think it should go well with the coffee. The nice thing is it's soft, moist. You get a little bit of, as you're biting through it, you get a little bit of resistance from that chocolate chip. Oh, that's nice. So let's have a look here more at it. So yeah, the crumb is very pleasing. The Power Plants live to eat. Absolutely, my friend, absolutely. It's having a hard time focusing. We're going to take a bite from this one because we want a little bit more of this cream cheese for the next bite. More coffee. The nice thing about the cream cheese, it brings a slight twang to it, maybe like a lightly soury twang. That's quite good. Marco says, I just had breakfast, but I'm still just... What'd you have for breakfast this morning? This is my breakfast. Actually, yeah, what did you guys have today? I'm interested, especially Kent, Anton, I know Anton's having pretzels. Like, Kent, what did you have today out there in Scandinavia? And then, Peter, you've been up all day, so it's now nighttime. So how was your dinner? And Paige, since you're down in Carolinas, what is a typical? Is there a typical Carolina breakfast? I guess, and that would be considered a Southern breakfast. What would be considered a Southern breakfast? Would be waffles or grits? Nima says, I've lived here for a bit and yet never had one of these. You gotta go get them. You got to go get them. But then you guys do have that really nice bundt cake shop in Colombia, which I had a bundt cake from there once. I was like, oh, this is good. I need to go back. My friend yesterday, she made the coconut cake, kind of like a bundt cake, kind of bundt. She went in a bundt pan. Really quite nice, really dense coconut cake. I think I might have a slice. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow. The power plant's asking, is Baltimore worth going out of the way to visit? Well, where are you first? Oh, like if you're visiting DC? Well, I guess the question really is like, what brings you to DC? What do you want to see while you're in DC? DC is, of course, it's our nation's capital. So there's so many things to do there. Like you could easily spend a week. You know, you could tour so many things. They've got so many museums. They've got a lot of you could tour Congress. You can go visit you can get a tour for the White House. And there's a lot of eaters. DC, so many things to do there. So it really kind of depends what you want to do, how much time you have. Baltimore's a very different kind of city. DC is the capital. It's the power center. It's all about getting ahead and dominating world domination, right? Baltimore's not like that. Baltimore's a very kind of laid back, chill city. And Baltimore's an interesting place because it really is a tale of two cities. There is the black Baltimore, there's the white Baltimore. And the two kind of meet in a weird way. And there is a balance between the two. But there is distinct worlds. And I think Baltimore's a quirky, cool city to live in. Much more affordable than DC. Much nicer people live in DC overall. So I don't know. It all depends what you like to do as far as whether Baltimore will be worth visiting if you're in DC. Now he says, I had a slice of toasted sourdough topped with natural peanut butter and banana slices drizzled with a little honey. Oh, that sounds delicious. Ken says dark bread, vegetables, orange juice, and light roasted coffee. I thought you were going to say that was your dinner. I was like, your lunch. I was like, but that itself, right? Like dark bread, vegetables, orange juice, and light roasted coffee. This is why Scandinavians don't look like Americans, right? Because you guys are eating nice foods, whole foods. Like we want to have donuts and coffee. Like I'm eating black bottoms and a cupcake and coffee for breakfast. It's really terrible. We have terrible diet habits in America. They even had a commercial like that on the Super Bowl about how fat we are. Like, gosh, that's bad. And Asian Diff says also Northern Virginia is so close to DC and so much good Asian food. Yeah, I mean there's so much in this region. Yeah, like why do you come to Baltimore? Food, crabs. If you want to see historical stuff, the Francis Scott Key did his. He created the national anthem while the Fort McHenry was getting bombed. So you could visit Fort McHenry. That's kind of historic. Paige says Balmer, exactly. And Marco, I've been to Drift at Wrightsville. The coffee was the best part because it's black and white. Oh, nice, awesome. And the Proud Plan says that Baltimore accent is wacky. Yeah, it's interesting because the Baltimore accent that everybody applies to Baltimore is really, it's more of an accent for working class white people, right? I mean, that's kind of, and depend if you're in that world, and that's really the world that I grew up in. Like, if you're from Baltimore, I grew up in an area called Patapsco Avenue when I was a child. Very, very white, very working class, very much salt of the earth. Like I really grew up with very salt of the earth kind of people. They have that kind of twang. That Balmerese, the one that talks about down the ocean and water and all of that. But if again, like I said, Baltimore's an interesting place because it is a tale of two cities. If the black side of Baltimore doesn't talk, they don't talk like that. They have a different accent. They have a different way of speaking. So it's a fascinating, Baltimore is a fascinating place to live. They called Maryland the land of pleasant living because it is very pleasant. And when I meet friends who have moved to Baltimore, a lot of them will come here for work or whatever, like they work at Hopkins or they work for actually the Space Telescope Institute, the Hubble and Webb are based here. The Jet Propulsion Laboratory is not too far from here. It's actually closer to where Nomi lives in Columbia. And so there's a lot of interesting stuff happening here. But people come here and I tell them, here's the thing. They may say, I'm just here for a year. You meet them, you're like, oh yeah, that's cool. I said, hey man, when they tell me that, I say, hey, here's something I tell you. You have 5 years. What do you mean? He's like, you have 5 years to leave and then you die. What does that mean? I say, you talk about leaving. If you do not leave within 5 years, the chances of you leaving this area diminish considerably and you'll be here. And I'm not saying you're going to die after 5 years. You're going to die after 5 years. Yes, you will die after 5 years, but it's not going to be immediate. It may be 40 years from now. But if you don't leave, if you talk about leaving Baltimore and you don't leave within 5 years, you're going to die here. Very few leave after 5 years because it's the land of pleasant living. It's pleasant. It's not super awesome and exciting like you imagine New York City to be. It's not all the bustle. We have a city. Baltimore's a good sized city, but it's not crazy like New York. It's not weird it's not crazy like Philadelphia. It's not too weird like Austin and Portland, right? We have enough. We're weird, strange, quirky, proud of it. But it's also pleasant to live here. It's also very pleasant overall. So you kind of get inoculated, and then you're suddenly on your deathbed. Like I was planning to move to Paris, but I never did. It was too nice. So that's what Baltimore's like. The power plant says, I grew up in Sacramento, California, and I would never say it's worth it. Well, Baltimore's not that bad. I mean, you do have the good coffee there. Sean Comesher has a coffee place on, and I can never remember the name when I'm talking on the live stream. I can never remember the name. I'm off camera. I'm like, oh yeah, that's totally the name. And I can't remember. Marcus says, case in point about our diet. I had half a scone and leftover cornbread from Midwood Smokehouse with a cappuccino. And yeah, I know it's terrible. Look at this. This is not good. I bet Kent is one of those skinny Scandinavian guys, all fit, listening to Bang & Olufsen, having nice furniture, living well. That's one of my friend's house when we were in Copenhagen and went to he's like, come over to my place. Went over to his house. We're hanging out, smoking cigars in his apartment, right? But man, like I say, the apartment was not small, but not big. But man, what I noticed, I was like, dude, you live well. You got nice. Everything is nice. You don't have janky IKEA stuff or janky Value City furniture. You've got nice quality furniture. You don't have a lot of it, sparsely done, right? But everything was nice, really. He's got the Bang & Olufsen system. He's got a beautiful humidor. He's got nice accessories. He's got nice tampers and all this stuff. And he's got the time he had the what is it called? The GS3 from La Marzocco. And I was like, dude, you live well. This is living well. I was like, is this how you people live in this part of the world? Because man, I love it. Paige says, cornbread sounds so good. That's what I had last night at the Super Bowl, right? With my friend, she made cornbread and chili. And I was like, oh, this is delicious. It's nice, sweet cornbread. So bad. But then later, in the second half, I was like, I'm going to have another bowl of chili. And I spied a bag of Cheez-Its. See, here's the problem. This is a problem in America, right? Cheez-Its. If you're ever with Cheez-Its, Cheez-Its are these cheddar cheese flavored crackers, right? So in the United States, in the southwestern part of the United States, Arizona, New Mexico, there's something there called Frito pie. My friends who grew up there, they were like telling me all that, and I was always like fascinated. Like, this is the problem with America, right? My friends are explaining this, and it's, if we think about it, it's truly disgusting. But like, it is, for the guy that grew up in America, it just sounds like, oh my God, I gotta try. So basically, the Frito pie, the traditional Frito pies, you're at 7-Eleven. You buy a bag of Fritos, the corn chips, you tear it open, but you don't tear it open from the top like this. Right? You're not tearing it open from the top like this. You're tearing it from this here, this seam here. You're tearing it open so you get like a pouch, an open pouch. You're at 7-Eleven, so you go to you're at 7-Eleven, you get your Coke. Put that aside. You have Coke, nice. The Coke is important because it's got that phosphoric acid burn, acidity to clean off the fat from your palate. And then you go to the hot dog, the hot dogs kind of dispensers for the chili, the pump chili, and you pump the chili on top of the Fritos. And then you go to the nacho cheese and you pump that on top of the chili. Right? And then if you want to add hot sauce, you can add hot sauce. And then you take a spoon or a fork and your Coke. Only I drink Diet Coke. And this is your meal. And I was like, oh my God. When I first heard about it, I was like, I need to go to Albuquerque and try this. And if you like American style, like bad junk food, it's wildly delicious. Like, this is delicious. But I was at my friend's house, right? So, like I said, I spied this bag of Cheez-Its. I was like, oh, I'm going to take a bag of Cheez-Its, put it in the bowl, chili on top, shredded cheese on top of that. Oh, nice. But this is the problem with American diet. It's terrible. It's terrible. Now I'm going to have to eat salad all day today. After this, just only salad for the rest of the day. Paige says, I had some awesome food in Wilmington this weekend as well. Great curry at Indochine. Awesome brunch at Dixie Grill in South. Oh, that sounds delicious. Indochine is more Indonesian Chinese. Is that correct? Or is it more like Vietnamese? Indochina? Yeah, French Indochina would be Vietnam, right? Is that correct? And then Dixie Grill, there's so much good, like some of that Southern food, like the biscuits and gravy can be quite tasty. Like we went on Friday, we were up in Pennsylvania, went to this Dutch family restaurant, like American, like down home kind of diner. And I was like, my friend, he's like, I'm going to get the wrap. And I was like, get a wrap? I'm not going to some like American diner in Pennsylvania and ordering a wrap. That's just ridiculous. I want to get like the real, like home cooking. Like, I'm looking at the menu and I said, what's really good here? The lady was like, the fried chicken's really good. And I was like, oh, fried chicken, that sounds really great. But I'm looking at the menu. I was like, you know what, man? I'm going to get this open-faced, smothered with gravy meatloaf sandwich with French fries. And I was like, okay, that sounds like America. I'm going to have this American meal, like meatloaf, white bread, gravy, and French fries. And well, gravy on top of all of it. It was delicious. Wildly terrible, wildly bad for you, but delicious nonetheless. So delicious, so delicious. So maybe that's what you should do. If you come to America, if you come to DC, go get the food. And don't eat at the fancy place. Like there's like, if you're in DC, there's Les Diplomats, right? Which is beautiful French food. Like I love it. I love it. I wish I could go there more. But it's French. It's fancy. DC's a fancy joint. Go to like, you know what's really good in DC? That's also good here in Baltimore. That's really ubiquitous to this part of the country also. In DC, they have places called chicken box places. They're typically in kind of challenging neighborhoods, right? Places where, you know, a little more poverty. Well, the demographics, the way that they've done demographics in America, they forced it's pretty much black neighborhood because, you know, they put them in the worst neighborhoods and kept them in bad places. And historically, they've just invaded their neighborhoods and pushed them out. But they have these chicken box places, right? They're chicken box, and they're just fried chicken, and there's fried chicken. 2 pieces of fried chicken with usually there's a bun and some fries. And then in DC, they have this thing called mumbo sauce. Mumbo. Maybe it's called mumbo sauce. I'm from Baltimore, so I don't really understand it. I just know about it. But the mumbo sauce is very particular to these kind of joints. And some people have tried to like mass market it, but really you have to go to these neighborhood chicken box joints, get the mumbo sauce. It's kind of spicy. It's different than Tabasco. You put it on your chicken and your fries and you eat it. I think these places are also Pepsi houses, which I disagree with. I want Coke, not Pepsi, but whatever. That's true. Like if you're in DC, you're going to have to, if you're staying like down in the areas that are nice for tourists, for the Smithsonian and all that, you're going to have to go out of your way to get to these places. But there's some good ones. There's this one dude on TikTok, young black man with dreads. He's always doing reviews. Very popular. He went to some really great places in DC that I want to go visit. So you should check that guy out, and like he will know where to go. Like you're gonna go and you'll eat some great food in DC. Indochine was Thai and Vietnamese. Oh, okay, there we go, perfect. That sounds delicious. Power Plant says Indochine was Indochina in another language, and yes, was from Southeast Asia. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I had Dixie's version of a Benedict. Dixie's version of a Benedict, biscuits, fried green tomatoes, fried scrambled eggs, Vidalia onion gravy, and home fries. Oh, that sounds good. And had huevos rancheros at Sabores. Well, a nice full tour. I keep going over all the world with that. Excellent. Jeremiah says, please describe the mumbo sauce for you. That's the problem. I don't really have a good description for it because, like I said, I'm from Baltimore. In Baltimore, we don't have mumbo sauce. We don't have any of that. What we have here is Tabasco and Texas Pete's. And then if you go to some places, they like have Cholula. But we don't have a distinct Baltimore. So what's distinct to Baltimore is Old Bay seasoning, that kind of Old Bay style, heavy paprika, garlic, black pepper, onion powder. I don't know what else is in it, but that's very peculiar to Baltimore and to Maryland in general, but really Baltimore. Mumbo sauce is really something for DC people. Like that's really DC. And since I'm not from DC, I don't really know. I just know about it. Oddly enough, the first time I had mumbo sauce was over 10 years ago when I was in Manila. There's a morning market on Sunday mornings in Legazpi Park, and I usually go there on Sunday mornings, and there's this black guy, American guy, who's living in Manila, and he's got a little business where he's making mumbo sauce and selling it. And he's selling it at a booth in this market in Southeast Asia, and I'm like, hey. He's like, hey, here's some mumbo sauce. Try it out. I was like, I'm from Baltimore. I was like, really? I'm from DC. I was like, okay. So pretty good. I just don't know enough about it. For me, it's just like, okay, it's nice, but I'm Baltimore. We like Old Bay. If we're going to have fries, we'll put Old Bay or gravy. We're not putting mumbo sauce. We're not putting that hot sauce. Hot sauce is for chicken. And then for me, it's kind of like I don't know how to describe it to you. I'm sorry. There's probably there's going to be other people on the internet that can describe the mumbo sauce much better than I can, and definitely with more authority. Peter says Coke. Yes, absolutely Coke. Like I get a little bit snobby in my soda. Like if I go to places and they don't have Coke, they only have Pepsi, I get a little bit irritated. Like I'm like, I'm not gonna eat here again. Like one of my friends, he's like, hey, have you heard of this place called Bruno's Pizza? And I was like, yeah, it's awesome. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, don't you think it's awesome? I was like, yeah, I think it's good. I think it's solid. I think it's solid. I don't know if I'm not as enthusiastic about it because, the pizza's fine. Not as good as some other places that I like to go, but I was like, it's fine. It's closer to where I live. So if I really feel pressed for pizza, I can get pizza there. But their fries are battered. They have that coating. And they serve Pepsi. And I was like, yeah. If I get pizza there, I still got to go to like the 7-Eleven and pick up some Coke. It's not a one-stop shop for me. And they don't have fries. They don't have the fries that I like, so I don't like to go there. I'm very picky, so I'm very picky. Anton says, man, I have been nailing my latte art for the last 3 days. Awesome. It's like it just happens. It just happens. The more you do it, sometimes you just get over that hump. And then suddenly... Which reminds me, yesterday I was at my friend's Belle's house. She invited us for lunch, and so we went over there. And she's like, hey, would you make the coffee? They're like, since you didn't bring any, because she cooked the food, and my other friend, she brought the cake, right, the coconut cake. And they just brought me along. So I was like, oh. She was like, since you didn't bring anything, you make the coffee. I was like, I can do that. I can do that. So she has this, what is the name of it kind of looks like a Breville, but it's not a Breville. It's a DeLonghi espresso machine. You know, it's very similar to the Breville where you have the small, tiny portafilter and you lock on this collar, and then you put it into to the left side, and it has a grinder, and it has a dial gauge, I guess, for seconds. And you put it in, and it grinds. And you take it out, and there's a little stand because it's got that little teeny tiny stubby twin spouts. And then you tamp it to the little teeny tamper that fits in it. Maybe it's like 42 millimeters or whatever it is. And then you lock and load, and then you brew. And then it even has a steaming function, right? And it warms up fairly fast. I don't really understand how it works, but I was like, huh. So she's like, I got coffee. I said, I got Starbucks in there. And she's like, is that all right with you? I was like, well, whatever you have, I can make. And it's like dark Starbucks. I was like, good Lord. Good Lord. And she's like, but I also have some of this Brazilian stuff. And I was like, well, we'll use what's in the hopper, and then we'll have the Brazilian. So I made one. And it's really interesting because like it's very similar to what I'm used to, but a bit different, right? Because it's just so smaller, and you just got to learn to try to figure out how the buttons work and what the buttons do. Like press this on button, and I guess it heats up some water and then dispenses it, and then you hit the switch for the steam, and then it heats it up and then steams out. So there's a little bit of a learning curve, but I was able to like pull nice shots with it, get nice crema with good flow, and even was able to even steam some nice milk with a small pitcher. She had a small like 12-ounce pitcher. And I mean, the steam is like, compared to the La Valentina, the steam is anemic. You're just like, how does that even work? So it took me a couple tries to like, because I mean, the steam is so anemic. You're just like, oh. But it is possible to make latte art with it. I mean, I was like, oh, all right. I guess I kind of have chops still. So the DeLonghi espresso machine was, not terrible. Like I was really, really surprised that I was able to pull some nice shots out of it. Now, granted, for me to get those, I didn't play with the grind setting. I just, whatever grind she had. So I really had to get the really nicer looking shots. I really had to like, I jammed it full. Like I tried to play with the dosing setting, and I ended up like way too much. So I had to like toss some of it. But really, I'm filling it pretty much all the way to the top rim, and there's no room it's so full I can't really tamp it. There's no real thing. So what I would do is I just kind of like would take a little bit off the top because it really was difficult to lock. Like it just was so full, it just wouldn't lock. But you get it locked in, and I was like, oh, it actually pulls decent shots. And I made one for myself, which had the worst looking shot of all. Like that, I put too little coffee in that one, or I ran out of coffee in the hopper. So I was like, it's just for me. I don't care about it. So I just locked it in. It was runny, a little bit runny. The crema was breaking really fast, and I steamed some milk. Not perhaps as good as I made it for my friends because, trying to look nice for them. But for me, I don't care. But poured it, and it actually turned out well. Like the coffee was pretty darn good. I was really, really surprised with that thing. Dev says, like how Hawaii makes Hawaiian chili pepper water. You kind of like that, but chili pepper water is a little bit different, right? In that you basically are taking vinegar, putting chili peppers, and maybe some garlic, maybe some onions, depending on who you are and who you hang out with. And you just put it into the jar, and you just kind of shake. And unlike Filipino sukang maasim, which is basically spicy vinegar from the Philippines, like Filipinos, we like to, when we make the sukang maasim, we're always trying to make longer. Chili pepper water is much more of a immediate thing, right? Like they're not, if you're having chili pepper water that's being infused with the chili peppers, it's because it's just been sitting around for a long time. But sukang maasim, you're really kind of like wanting it to be. So it's a little bit different in that respect. But compared to the mumbo sauce, chili pepper water, of course, is very, very different. It's very vinegary forward, right? Where the mumbo is not that way. It's much from what I recall, it's much similar, at least in appearance and texture, to like Texas Pete's than chili pepper water, right? Peter says, I've tasted chili soda. Oh, that sounds, how is that? That sounds wild. He says, is that like the capital city mumbo sauce? No, I mean, the chili pepper water is not like the mumbo sauce. But but they were asking, like, what does mumbo sauce taste like? And I don't really know. Maybe you know me, you know, because I don't really have it. I've only had it a couple times, so I don't really know much about the mumbo sauce. Anton says the only good DeLonghi is the Dedica with mods. I don't know which one this was. Let me look it up and see. Maybe I can find it on a website. DeLonghi espresso machine. Is this? Oh, yeah, this is it. This is the one that she had. La Specialista. Yeah, because these are the same button configurations. Oops. This same button configuration you can see here. This is their on switch. I only really understand, like, this is where you adjust the grind. This is the on switch. You press that, it turns it on, and you press that to brew. You press it again to stop. So I would actually I would bring our things like this is, I guess, design. I think you can tell it how many, what do you call it? Where is it? What are you doing here? Super automatic. Anyway, whatever. I'm not going to go look through that, but basically, I guess these other functions. You can tell it how much to brew, how long to brew. I basically would just stop it at the moment that I thought I should stop it. Like, just stop there, done, regardless of that. Because I'm looking at volume for my shots. Yes, we're using like small, like 4 or 5 ounce, like teacups. So I was, just pulling the shot until it looked good and then done. And then I did set the setting here. There's a setting for different, I forgot what these are, cups or something, whatever. And then this is the steam wand switch. And the steam wand, as you can see here, is super small. Like, it's really hard to tell here, but man, it is anemic. I don't know if this is the same machine you're talking about, Anton, but and I'm sure she did not. She's not an enthusiast in that respect, where she's going to modify the brewer. But this I was able to pull nice espresso and made nice cappuccinos. So, but I really do believe that, if you understand the basic techniques of making espresso and have some level of mastery over it, and I think that's the key, understanding the processes and having some level of mastery in your own world. It should be, I do believe that good baristas should be able to go to any situation and figure out how to pull great shots, which is why, like, a lot of times when we're training our baristas, we always taught them the really long method, the difficult method to do it, so that by the time they were ready to go, they could be in pretty much any situation and make quality coffee because they understood the deeper process of it, rather than just having I always thought about, like, going to, like, dosing grinders and then going to puck presses and then, going to much more simplifying the process of training to get them to make drinks in-house. But I don't believe that gives you a fully rounded barista, right? So I always wanted to make sure that our baristas were very solid in that respect, so that they could, be in any situation and still be able to make nice quality stuff. And, is this kind of machine going to give you the same results as, let's say, maybe this E61 La Valentina, or especially even a commercial machine? No, it's not going to give you. Well, I mean, I'm going to have to, I think my friends took photos of their drinks. I'm going to have to ask them to text me. But maybe you can. Maybe you can. At least you can't do it in the same manner. Like, it's not going to be as expeditious. But I think yesterday those drinks were like my drink, even though it had a lot of issues to it. I gotta say, even I enjoyed the hell out of it, and I wasn't expecting to enjoy it. Nice sweetness with the milk because you just got it to the right temperature. It takes a long time to bring it to temperature, and you really have to be heavily under control of your stream in order to get the right texture. Like it's really difficult to get texture on that because it's so anemic with the way that the force that it's giving, and you got to float the level of the milk just right and just right on the edge, and for way longer than I would normally do it. Like it's pretty much riding the edge of that foam of the milk level almost the entirety of the heating cycle, like well past where I would normally stop on regular machines, mainly because it's very difficult to actually get the swirl. It probably doesn't have enough to get a lot of swirl going on. And they package it with that small 12-ounce pitcher, which is pretty much like I think if you put a larger pitcher on, like a 20-ounce pitcher, you're just asking for headache. You're just asking for like disappointment in that respect. It wasn't the Didika, it was the Didika's grindless. Oh, okay, gotcha. If you're going for the built-in grinder type machine, Breville Sage for sure is the better choice. Gotcha. I hear you on that. I did like the Breville ones. Paige, what is coffee milk? Is Naomi's asking. Wait, did we? Oh, yeah. Paige says, I know coffee milk is a Rhode Island thing. Well, I'm missing a bunch. Sorry. Let me go back up here a little bit. The power plant says there are lots of fun regional foods in the States. Steamed cheeseburgers in Connecticut. Oh, yeah, that's good stuff. Coffee milk in Rhode Island. Oh, yeah. Green chili. Oh, yeah. Such good recommendations there. For me, when it comes to green chili, man, especially in New Mexico, sometimes you can find it. Sadie's. There's a brand called Sadie's, Sadie. Sadie's makes this salsa using a lot of the hatch chilies. If you get the hot one, it's flaming hot, but it's so delicious. Like if you get the proper tortilla chip, and don't get that restaurant tortilla chips. Don't get the commercial tortilla chips with this. Like it's, the ones that are ground corn and they're, no, go find yourself a proper tortilleria, like look for where the Latinos are, like Mexicans, and be like, hey, where can I go and buy fresh tortillas? Because a lot of times these tortilla factories or tortillerias, they will take their day-old tortillas, cut them into triangles, deep fry them, and then sell them. Those are the only corn chips for salsa worth eating. The rest are rubbish. Sure, I'll eat the other ones if I'm having something. But for this, if you get the Sadie's, you get proper salsa. You get what they call totopos, the properly fried triangles. So good. But the Sadie's, such beautiful complexity of flavor in their salsa. And the hot version is like, it's searing. Like you're just eating it. You're burning. You're just like, I gotta have more. I gotta have another bite because the flavor is so delicious. But you're just burning. It's so terrible. Terribly good. And then the coffee milk. We did the coffee milk video here on the live stream. We featured the coffee milk from Rhode Island a couple months ago, back in closer to the summertime. Very nice product. Very interesting because it's very like regional to Rhode Island. Like super interesting stuff. Paige says, I know coffee milk is a Rhode Island thing originally, but I think it's popular in all of New England. Ah, okay. That would not surprise me. It's quite nice. Naomi says, I've never seen coffee milk, but also never go where chocolate milk is sold either. Oh. Well, I don't know if they sell them together in that part of the country. I don't know. Peter says, I've been through so many of those domestic coffee machines. They don't last, gave up on them. Yeah. I mean, that's one thing. Like, I don't think domestic machines like this are meant for heavy usage. Like they're just maybe once a day, twice a day. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much that DeLonghi costs. But the thing is that I'm not necessarily recommending it for buying, but just more like my friend had it, so I used it, and I was surprised to be able to get good results out of it. I mean, I wouldn't say that it's trying to get, but it actually was really good coffee. Like the coffee was really good, really enjoyable. So it's not always it's not an impossibility. Like if you're going to your friend's house and they have these machines, you're like, you can make nice coffee with them. But of course, I can make nice coffee on it. I don't know if my friend makes nice coffee on it. I bring a different level of experience and skill sets to that, right? So that part is the part and it's that experience and skill set development that is the most difficult part of the whole journey, right? So if you have that, you can make coffee on pretty much anything. You just have to think dynamically on how to do it. That to me is the hardest part for the enthusiast, is just getting that. Like we always talk about this, when get that time in the saddle, that how many repetitions are you able to do? Right? That's I always think that's really where it goes back to. Peter says, not even good enough for. Come on, you want to do that for boat anchor? Come on. He says, I have my Bambino Plus and still in working order. Awesome. It's my backup machine just in case. And sometimes you always need the backup machine. What is your main machine that Anton wants to know? And it's the Profitec 600. Oh, I'm not familiar. See, these are things that I'm never too familiar with. Let me look here. Profitec Pro 600. Oh, that's some fanciness. Oh, yeah, you've got a nice machine there, Naomi. All right. Respect. Plus, what I like about these older school style E61s, I love this lever, the mechanical lever. I love that. I love that more than I kind of wanted to get that when I bought the E61, the La Valentina, because mine only has the electronic controls. But the ones that like yours that has the mechanicals were like a little bit more expensive, and I was already spending like whatever this cost, $1,200. I was like, $1,200. Holy crap. Now it says one of the bigger one, but it was just a few inches too big. Understood. Most days I only make one latte. Maybe two if my husband wants one, so my machines don't get as much use. Yeah, I mean, and that's the difficult part for the enthusiast, is that you're only going to make one or two lattes a day, or pull one or two espressos a day. So that repetition time is the hard part to get. I don't know. Like if you're really interested in like getting more, experience, like more time in the saddle, I wonder if there's maybe volunteering somewhere to like pull shots for people at an event or something might be, I don't know. That might be something, maybe. Anton says, you like the lever, soon I'll be screaming. The Germans are always high tech, man, always high tech. Marcus says, funny, Naomi, I also went from the Bambino Plus to an Endgame Profitec. Oh, awesome. But here's the question, Marcus, is it really going to be Endgame? Or will there be another? And I only asked that because one of my good friends, he called me a few years ago. He bought I'm sure I've told you guys this before, but he bought a La Marzocco GS3. He's like, this is a good machine. Dude, it's an amazing machine. You'll never buy another machine again. And then he was like, can you help me get the Chiado, which is the big Chiado, like commercial grinder? I was like, sure, man, no problem. So I got it for him. And he's like, do you think it's good? I think it's excellent. So it's a commercial level machine. This will last you the rest of your life. You will be dead before you need to replace this machine. He said, okay, good. I mean, those are end game kind of machines, right? The end game. About a year later, he calls me back and says, dude, what do you think of this other grinder? I forgot what grinder he was talking about. He's like, what do you think of this other grinder? I was like, dude, you got a grinder. What do you mean? I know, but I think the other one's kind of cool. Like, oh yeah, he's got plenty of money. So he was like, yeah. I was like, yeah, buy it. It'll be a good time. So is it really an end game grinder? It's only 2025, maybe by 2027, you'll be like, I think there's something better that I need to buy. Anton says, but you can swipe to start, so it's almost like a nice. They have that kind of tactile feel. They just kind of like. Jeremiah says, do you use a batch pour over brewer? What do you do for multi-cup pour over situations? So here's it all depends, right? So At Spro Hamden, we did not do batch. Well, we did some batch brewing, but it was very, very limited. For that, we would use a big bun, half-gallon pour-over tower that could be either poured into or plumbed in. It depended how you. We did it pour because we just didn't want to plumb it in, and it wasn't always. We weren't always using it, so it was only used for certain situations. At the Café du Spro at the old roastery, we would do to-go cup service in the mornings. Like for a couple hours, we'd have like eight ounce cups of to-go coffee for like $2. So you come in, you go, you leave. You don't sit down, you have to leave. Right? To go only. For that, we would actually take the baskets, the big commercial basket, and the commercial basket for the half-gallon brewer. And we would put the big filter in, put the coffee in, and then basically hand pour it. And for the volume that we're doing there, that's perfectly fine. Depending on the situation, like we'll use, like for the food market, we put in Fetco extractors, 1.5 gallon extractors in there. So it all depends on what you're doing and how much volume you need and what kind of time frame. I've always kind of wanted to work with the big Fetcos. Like Fetco makes these 7-gallon commercial brewers. Like they have the brewers, the air pots are huge, right? They're huge, and they're built on like stainless steel carts. So you roll them in underneath the brewer, fill it with the coffee, hit the button, and it brews into it, and then you roll. This is really for more like stadium applications, but like super volume. Like I would love to use those ones to see what they're like, but it always depends on what kind of situation. And so we've used a variety of them, and depending on how much coffee we need to do and what the service is really about. So it really tailored to that. But if I'm just myself, a lot of times, like let's say we have a party, and I need to brew a lot of coffee, I'll typically do it by hand, get the big basket, right? One of the commercial baskets. And if you go to like a restaurant supply store or maybe online, you get them for like $10. They're super cheap. And you get the big filters for them. And the principles for brewing are always the same, right? You want, like it's always 2 grams for every finished ounce. So if we're brewing half a gallon, 64 ounces of water of coffee, we're still going to use 2 grams for every ounce. So it's still, so we're using 128 grams. Or if we bring a full gallon, we're going to bring in 256 grams. Put that in the basket with the filter and brew it. And we're grinding it fairly coarse because we got so much volume. And we still want to stay right around 4 to 5 minutes now, under 5 minutes, because there's so much more volume. It's harder to get it under 4. But you want to still be in that similar time range so that you get the right extraction, not too much, not too little. The principles are still the same. It's just how you execute them. And so for up to a gallon, I'll do it by hand, or maybe more. Now we have worked with situations where we've done 5-gallon brews. You get the big like filters, and now you're putting what? If a gallon is 256, you're putting 1,000, just over 1,200 grams. Is that right? 1,300 grams. 1.3 kilos of coffee. What were we using? We were using a China cap for a big China cap first, which is basically like kind of like this big, huge funnel that has perforations in it. They call those China caps. And then there's also ones. The China caps are the ones that look like colanders, but like conical shape. The chinois are the ones that have the mesh, right? So you can use something like that, put the coffee in, and then you pour over boiling water. Now you got to boil like 5 gallons of water. So that's a whole other process, right? But we have done that. So, but for typically up to a gallon, we'll still do pour over. Peter says, I'm thinking of getting a lever machine, so less things to break down, especially those cheap pumps. Nice. If you don't mind the workflow and the lack of steaming, I think the Flare 58 is a good option, a solid option. if you, especially don't want to spend crazy amounts of money. Right? Power Plant says, finding your happy place is key. I used to be an espresso guy, but now I just drink filter. Ardently in the anti-faff camp. Yes, yes, yes. Used to love the micro steps though. I hear you. I hear you. Anton says, I think I'm good grinder-wise. 0.78 with the LeBrew Hyperburst is excellent. Didn't even need to season. Awesome. Awesome. Naomi says, I know I will eventually get the Profitec Drive, maybe in 3 to 4 years, or its equivalent. Yeah, it's a never-ending journey. It's a never-ending journey. It's part of the fun, I think. Anton says, no alignment either. I can go back and forth between filter and Spro and get perfect replication. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, and I think that once you, I think that's, a lot of people, I think, fuss over those kind of things. But I think that once you understand your grinder and you know the position where you should be, that should give you, like where you were before, like you can go back, you should be able to go back to that and get good success. Like when I won the United States AeroPress Championship, that's kind of what happened in the finals round. We were using an EK43 grinder that everybody was sharing. And they had a few of them. They had a few grinder choices, but I was using the EK43, not because it was the one that was closest to me. It was so just whatever I had. I didn't really care which grinder I was just using it. But in the finals round, one of the other competitors, this girl, this woman, she was very like aggro. She was like, I gotta have the grinder. I gotta use the grinder. I must use the grinder. I was like, yeah, okay, man, take it easy. Use the grinder. So she ran to the grinder, ground her coffee, and I already memorized the position on this particular grinder and this particular time that I used. So I was like, she ground, she got her thing, did her thing, moved on. So I just walked up, changed it, put the coffee in, ground, and then went to brew the coffee. And I ended up winning the championship because of that. But it was like, you don't have to, if you got a good grinder, you know where the settings are. I don't know if there's any need to muck and fuss with it too much. Anton says, Naomi, doesn't seem like a big, that's because Anton wants to go like from awesome to like super awesome, right? Like from wherever to the morrow is like super awesome. Like I want to go to super awesome. I get it. And Naomi says, it's not just a rotary pump. And that's all right. I wonder, can you retrofit the one that you have now with a rotary pump? So you don't have to buy a new machine if that's important. Anton says, I see if you want it to be quiet, guess what the quietest pump machine? You should be sponsored by those guys, I think. Anton, do you use the LeBrew for Spro and pour over? He does. He uses both for both, from my understanding. Naomi recommends the Flair 58. Anton says it is, but I like to always reduce on what I have once I figured out what works for me. Gotcha. And then Naomi thinks that Mara's probably too techie. Anton said, Mara's so quiet, you won't even know it's pulling a shot if you're talking with someone. Oh, nice. That's nice. Like all my machines make a lot of noise. Like this one makes a lot of noise. The vibratory pump. Naomi says, I prefer the ZP6 over the Q. I don't have the air version, but I assume it's the same. I don't know. Anton says, now I don't want to see myself become a gear hoarder like Hoon. I don't think anyone can be a gear hoarder like Hoon. Hoon has the corner of the market on gear hoarder. Well, I'm telling you this. I'm saying Hoon has cornered the gear market on hoarding when I'm surrounded by boxes filled with brewers like that. And I've got a storage space right now that still has more boxes of brewers. I don't have a lot of machines in grind. Well, I got a lot of grinders actually, but mostly commercial stuff. Anton says it's the same, but with a plastic hull, lighter for travel. Oh, nice. It's much smaller than the ZP6, so that's worth the trade-off. Gotcha. And Q-Air is the perfect grinder choice for anyone getting into filter, I think. It's the best thing for the price. Any big upgrade past the Q is like thrice the price. Oh, really? Wow. Malcolm says it's funny for espresso, I have to adjust the grind almost daily for some beans. Some beans are so reliable day to day, but others are so, oh, really? And it's interesting because like, as you recall, or as we do our live streams, we're pulling shots of espresso. And I'm really only using the espresso machine and grinder when we're on the live stream. It's very rare for me to actually pull shots outside of our live stream. And so typically you're seeing me working with the machine in real time. And I think we've only had one situation where we really had to adjust the grind. So I wonder, like, and I'm presuming, like, okay, maybe you're using a lot more lighter roasts. I wonder if the lighter roasts create more instability. Because ostensibly, the lighter roast will have more moisture content than a darker roast, right? And I don't mean like dark roast, but just darker than the light. Like if you're talking about like going to first crack it, then pulling it, versus going closer to second crack it before dropping it. Now, the moisture content in those, the difference in moisture content, because I cannot imagine being tremendous. Like we're talking roasted coffee is typically 2 to 3%. So you're talking somewhere in that range. So I don't know if that really would have that much difference. I'm curious though. I'm curious to see if maybe we'll have to do a round that's lighter roasted and put it in the machine and see over time how that might affect. Like, will we need, if I got a bunch of lighter roasted coffee, will we need to actually adjust the grind more? That's good. That's a good one. Let me write this down. Adjusting. Does lighter roasted need more adjusting? We're going to put that down in our upcoming show notes. Anton says, I don't need to be sponsored. Securing the longevity of the company is beneficial. I need to see this model when it finally comes out here. Maybe they'll come to the SCA. Ask them if they're coming to the SCA in Houston and tell them to let me speak to them. The power plant says that's why I would not recommend those fly-by-night Chinese companies. I hear you on that one. Marcus says, out of the unpredictable ones, most of them are lighter roasted indeed. I'll say the Agent 99 is very reliable. Oh, good. I mean, and that's, we try to make it reliable, right? That's what we try to make it. And you know, I'm since I've always used our coffees, like especially well at the shop, because of course we're using our coffees as espresso for the espresso. Like I said, in my experience, I see baristas talk about like coming in every morning for their shift and they're spending 15, 20 minutes adjusting their grind. And I'm like, oh, do you really need to spend that much time adjusting your grind? Like, do you not have control over your factors that you need to adjust? Maybe it's because they're using a lot of light roasted coffee. In my experience, you know, what I would do is I'd come in, maybe make a shot just for myself to taste, to see, and typically it's pretty close or on the money, and then as we would progress, you know, as customers come in, we're making shots. Of course, we're always monitoring the shots. We're always evaluating the shots. Every shot is being evaluated as we make it, so we can make adjustments on the fly based on what we're seeing. So I always wonder, like these baristas that talk about, I need like half an hour to prepare. And I was like, what are you doing? How much time do you really need? The machine should, I mean, maybe if you had the machine shut off, you need 15 minutes for it to heat up. Okay. The crew should have cleaned the bar the night before, so it should be ready to go. You just need to get your towels ready and make sure the coffee's full. But all the pulling and all the shot pulling, it's like, what are you doing, man? But again, I don't really do a lot of light roasted espresso, so I could be totally wrong. Anton says the power plant, I don't even know any fly-by-night Chinese company that sells expensive. Well, that's good then. That's good then. Peter says, I'm downsizing on gear to be more minimal. I love the idea of minimalist. I just wish I was better at it. All right. My gosh, we're already at 1 hour, 43 minutes. So time to go. Thank you very much for tuning in. Always good to see all of you hanging out here. Especially you, Peter, hanging out till like 2 in the morning. I appreciate that. And then the rest of you guys on your different parts of your day, always appreciate you guys hanging out here. Back again tomorrow with more of the coffee Q&A. So if you have questions or thoughts, love to hear them. And time to go. Mom, good to have a good one. Can't see you. Peter wants to get a rock lever and a Bellman streamer. Nice. Yeah, the Bellmans are nice. The Bellman's nice. Yeah, all right. It's staying in the membrane. Peace.